Okay, let's now look at RI, residual income. So what is residual income? So residual income, we call it as net operating income above some minimum return on operating assets. So you're considering at least some threshold to evaluate the performance based on the net operating income. So there will be something called some minimum return on operating assets on above what net operating income. So let's look at how we can actually compute that so that that definition got clear. So to calculate the residual income, the formula equation is we take net operating income, of course, we deduct the multiplications of average operating assets and minimum required rate of return. Now, what is this minimum rate of return? This is an accounting estimations that you may have seen in financial accounting, but that is we are not going to further about calculating it. Mostly, we are going to know that how this is going to be applied here. So, minimum required rate of return. This happens is when you are putting some investments, you set some targets that after making this $1,000 of investment or $100,000 of investment, I'm expecting to get 10% of minimum return. So that is the minimum required rate of return. And this computation, of course, as you can see, is quite different from the ROI, where ROI we measure what? We measure net operating income and related to the investment in operating assets. But in ROI, residual income, we measure net operating income and less the minimum required return on average operating assets. So when we are deducting this, minimum required return on operating assets from the net operating income, whatever is remaining, that is my actual residual income. But in ROI, we don't have that opportunities because in ROI, we just correspondingly take our investment and then of course the net operating income. So here in ROI, we are deducting this corresponding investment on my operating assets so that we know what is being left after doing that investment and of course from my net operating income. If anything is left, that is my RI. So here I have some piece of information. The retail division of this corporation has average operating assets, which is $100,000, and they are required to earn a return of 20% on these assets. So that is the minimum expected rate of return, 20%. In the current period, the division earns $30,000. So let's calculate my RI. So it's quite simple. First of all, my minimum required return. So average operating assets is $100,000 and required rate of return is 20%. So this is the 20% which is given and that is my total minimum required return. So out of $100,000 of investment, I can return $20,000. Then my actual income, which is given again $30,000, I have to deduct this 20,000. You can do this in a with one equation in one line, like you take 30,000, then deduct these two altogether. So of course you'll end up with 20,000. So I'm just breaking it down so that you understand it easily. So that $10,000 is my RI. Now commonly we know that residual income of course is better measurement in terms of evaluating your performance because it encourages your managers to make profitable investment that would be rejected by managers using ROI. So therefore we always consider the residual income to evaluate my managers and to make them understood that this is going to be more beneficial for us. So therefore residual income is a better measurement criteria, better measuring approach in terms of evaluative performance. Of course, there is one key reservation of residual income, which is it cannot be used to compare the performance of the divisions of different sizes. So like in one company, there could be of course so many divisions of operations, but if they are not kind of identical in sizes, it cannot compare it. Because why? The reason is that operating assets. If one division like this has bigger operations, so they would have more and more assets. But if that is small, they will have only small assets. So that will create some confusion if you compare their performance across the different departments and different divisions. So therefore, when you are applying RI or ROI, we have to make sure they are identical and parallel in terms of divisions. Like you can compute ROI for this firm, I mean this department, of course. Within this department, you can subdivide it and find out the ROI. Same goes here. So therefore, it's better to focus on each and individual division separately rather than just taking the whole divisions together and compare it with another divisions. So this is the only one thing that we have to consider before we apply the RI method. So that will be all for RI. Thank you.